Alright, I feel like this video might be a bit controversial, and if you don't agree, please hear me out before hitting up the comments. There is a gemstore item that is so incredibly valuable and so cheap that it beats out any other item in the game. And the funny thing is that it usually doesn't make the top spot on gemstore tier lists. I'm not talking about salvage-o-matics or infinite gathering tools, I'm talking about the candy corn gobbler. If you're not convinced, please allow me to explain. And if you are convinced, but you don't own the item yet, this video is actually for you. Because by the end of the video, I want to guarantee that you will be able to buy it from the gemstore without spending real money. People who frequently watch my videos might already have noticed I always have a ton of buffs active. And the candy corn gobbler is how I achieve that. I don't spend laurels or gems or any other currency on boosters. I simply stack all of these buffs regularly by using the candy corn gobbler. The reason why I deem this the single most valuable item is simple. These buffs are rather painless to stack if you know how, and they offer you extra benefits regardless of the game mode you're playing. Although they're nice to have, I don't care so much for the speed bonus, damage reduction, or the health regeneration buffs. I care for the experience booster, the item booster, and the karma bonus. Apart from using the gobbler, you can only acquire the experience booster, which grants you 50% extra experience in all game types, or 50% reward track gain in World v World and PvP, as well as up to 100% bonus experience from kill streaks through either consuming experience or heroic boosters. And each of these boosters costs 100 or 150 gems respectively. Or in the case of the latter, you can also buy them for Black Lion statuettes. If you look at the gem value of the candy corn gobbler, which costs 300 gems, that would only buy you 2 heroic boosters from the gemstore or 3 experience boosters. And the same goes for the item booster, which grants you 50% extra magic find, 50% chance of critical crafting experience gain, 33% chance of an extra gathering strike, which is kinda like having a glyph of bounty, 10 seconds of swiftness after gathering, and summons a Black Lion merchant if your inventory is full after gathering. The karma booster is simple. It increases your karma gain by 50%, which is a buff that can actually be acquired through boosters from the gemstore or communal bonfires and a few other things. The reason why I rank this higher than any other item is because all of the others grant you a convenience that can be either obtained in-game in another way for a couple of copper or can be mitigated in some way. I'm going to give one example and I'll use the copper fed salvage-o-matic as that is usually on top of anyone's gemstore tier list. And I agree that it is a convenient item to have, but if you don't own one, you can either still choose to salvage items with your regular kits for a couple of copper, or you can choose to sell your unidentified gear and other drops and still make gold that way. If the salvage-o-matic was free to use, I would have to revise my argument, because then it would offer you something that could not be gotten any other way in the game. But it isn't. Now, the candy corn gobbler boosts grant you experience, magic finds, gathering strikes and karma for simply playing the game, regardless of what you're doing. You get more from simply running around in the open world, you get faster reward tracks in World v World or PvP without actually investing the equivalent value in gems into the item. It creates extra value instead of being a purely convenient item to use. Now, if I have your attention but you don't own the gobbler, don't worry. The gobbler is often available during the Halloween or Mad King event, and it'll cost you 300 gems. That's why I'm making this video today and not a week before the event launches. Because now you have 6 weeks to come up with 300 gems, which is roughly 107 gold. And I want to make sure that if you follow a few painless steps, you will reach that goal. And if you already have the gobbler, but you still want to apply these principles, you'll have a bit of extra spending money. And at the end of the video, I'll also explain how to stack the buffs without going nuts. Between the next reset and the Halloween events, you will most likely be able to get at least 30 antique summoning stones by simply buying your 5 weekly stones from the vendor in Arborstone. Doing so and selling those stones will already net you about 83 gold of the 107 needed, without having to farm. Let's round down and say you get about 75 gold total that way. That means we're almost 3/4 of the way there for less than 5 minutes a week. 6 weeks is 42 days. And if you were to do your daily Wizard's Vault objectives every single day without fail, you'll already have enough gold by the time Halloween hits if you combine it with the Summoning Stone sales. Now, if you don't own End of Dragons, but you do own Path of Fire, go do my daily Orichalcum route on at least one character. That will net you a little over 2.5 gold net for about 20 minutes of time investment per day. That will be about 105 gold total by the time Halloween hits, which combined with the dailies will make sure you can also buy the item. Now, if you don't own Path of Fire, but you do own Heart of Thorns, you can actually go do daily Octavine and Chagarant, which will get you there as well. Or if you want another meta, go do Dragonstorm. This will get you there as well. See, if you were to start saving for this item the day it launches on the gemstore, you would need to do some hardcore farming. But if you start saving today, you'll need a little over 2.5 gold per day to make sure you can buy the Candy Corn Gobbler without fail. And that's manageable, at least in my opinion. Now, if you have the Gobbler, you know that stacking the bonuses isn't the most user-friendly. You need to click the Gobbler every 5 seconds or you get an error message. And every 5 seconds clicked will grant you a random buff or change your appearance. You don't have to do this yourself though. ArenaNet actually included a clause specifically in their macro policy stating that it is okay to use an auto-clicker to consume a stack of items, as long as you're not away from the game. And thanks to Blish HUD, and more specifically the Inquest chipset module, you don't need to go and buy an auto-clicker or risk installing some shady software. The Inquest chipset module includes an auto-clicker that you can set to a specific item to use and a specific time interval. So whenever you're standing around in one of the hubs, or waiting for your friends to form a group, or even waiting in front of a meta for it to start, you could be stacking this buff without clicking like a mad person. You can stack most of the buffs up to 7 days by the way, and honestly, it isn't a hassle if you use Blish HUD. So yeah, I hope I convinced you why I think the Gobbler is the single most important item to buy from the gemstore, and that I gave you the tools to achieve this without spending real money by simply starting today. If you have any comments, hit me up down below, and I know I promised to share my Revenant build, which I'll do tomorrow, so make sure you like and subscribe.